So again, I'd like to introduce LaPora, who is a motivational speaker, career coach, and an author who has dedicated her work to helping professionals just like you navigate often tricky waters of career growth and personal fulfillment at different parts of our lives. She is the author of Bottom of the Food Chain. The struggle is real, but it doesn't have to be, as she says. LaPora specializes in helping individuals bridge that gap between where they are and where they want to be. So, this is a perfect place for you to be without losing yourself in the process. Her insights on empathy, communication, and resilience are exactly what we all need to hear to look forward to what we can achieve in our transitions. She understands that high performing women like you don't just want another job. Uh, they or you are wanting to bring fresh value and find new meaning, and LaPora is here to help you. Welcome, LaPora. How are you doing today?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Patricia. I'm doing well today. Thank you.
Good, good. And I'd like to start with some of the things that you and I talked about before, but one in particular that I just loved this talking point, and that is the one of contentment versus ambition.
Yeah.
One of the biggest myths, I think you will agree, that we all face, especially as high achieving women, is this idea that we can't have both contentment and ambition. We often feel that if we are happy where we are,
Yeah.
that somehow we've settled and stopped growing. You've got a powerful perspective on this. Could you tell us a little more about your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I believe as kind of like an overarching idea when it comes to how we can progress in our professions is that there is a lot of times there is a misinterpretation in how we define contribution. And so that deals with a lot of misalignment. And part of that is the misinterpretation that when we work, we need to get to this point where we're finally just like, this is where I need to be. Or we get to this, we never get to that point. Like we never settle. And then we get into, I have to do more, I have to do more, I have to do more. And what ends up happening, Patricia, is that we fall into a polarization. Either I need to be satisfied with where I am, or I need to consistently look for more. But I'm pretty sure, as you know, very rarely is anything just either or. I mean, unless we're talking about something illegal. I mean, even then, but I don't want to get into that. But it's very rarely are things either or. And contentment versus ambition and how we can do both is really about gratitude
Hmm.
for where we are currently. And the ambition piece is looking at, okay, I am grateful for where I am, but what else is available? How else can I improve? How else can I learn? What else am I open to? And I think that if we look at it that way, we will find a lot of balance and even more gratitude with where we are and what we've already accomplished.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, where have you seen that work for perhaps someone that we are familiar with, like maybe a celebrity or some that we know from public life, where they, even though they have that ambition, they they um, they show us that they are content with with their achievements, and I think that's an important part of it as well.
Yeah,
Being content
absolutely.
with your own achievements and not always sorry, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, as I
No,
usually
no.
do. My guests understand that. But going after something that's for you, not going after something that you are comparing with someone else. And I think that's where the discontent comes in, is when
Yeah,
we're always trying to achieve what maybe someone else has.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to I'm trying to think of someone who is popular enough for people to know who hasn't yet reached that point. And the person who keeps coming to mind, and the reason why is because she recently did an interview, but Oprah. And I know like that's probably not the best example when you look at where she is now, but I'm going to take you back to where she took her viewers when she recently did an interview. um, and one of the things that she was saying was her when she got into alignment and being grateful with where she was, but also looking at how are things going to align now and in the future. That's when things really started to take off. And I
Mm,
think the podcast was like its next chapter, but Oprah Winfrey. And I think that that's so important because when we look at where she is now, I mean, of course, she's an outlier when we look at those accomplishments, but there is something to be said when someone who is an exemplary high performer and they're saying when they started their career, it was largely about, yes, this is what I want to do, but I am so grateful of all of the things that I've accomplished so far. And then I think about there's a book called The Gap in the Gain.
mhm.
Hardy and oh, you're familiar with that, yeah. And I think that that is also a really good example as to how when we are looking at our ideal self and we're looking at where we are now, it's not about, oh gosh, I'm missing all of these things. Like I've come so far, but I have so much far to go. It's about look at all of the things, the obstacles that I've overcome, the challenges that I've overcome, and how far I've made it to this point. Do I have a ways to go? Sure. But I can't deny the fact that I made it to this point, and I think that's a really important highlight.
Yes, yes. Especially for high achieving women who are going into their encore years. That's a great message that you just gave, is for them to take a look at what they've gained
Yeah,
or their gains over their career and where that might be. And you brought up a perfect word. I know a lot of women are using this word for 2026 about alignment.
oh, yeah,
Wherever I'm going to go with my dreams, I want to ensure that they are aligned. So, taking a look at our gains rather than looking at the gap and seeing
right,
the gap as something that we have to strive for, looking at how we can align our life so that we can um, make double use of what we have gained and
right,
take us to our dreams, right? So you've brought up a beautiful perspective there. And it really does validate that we can strive for more, but we don't want to have the feeling like we have we don't have enough.
right.
It's and I'm not crazy about when women start to talk about they have just enough. It's not about just having enough. It's about having what you really value, okay, and that you're not good enough. You are great. So you're high achieving women. So take that as your badge of honor rather than just
Yes,
being good enough, right? It's about
absolutely.
that intricate dance between, as you mentioned, gratitude and forward momentum. So I think you put a really good touch on that one. So, getting to our next talking point about owning your value beyond the ladder. So, we know what the corporate ladder is.
Yeah,
Um, for decades, many of us have been defined by the success of maybe our title, or I know there used to be the dream of the corner office, or then just an office if we were in
yeah,
cubicles, if we were open concept, and how high we've climbed on the corporate ladder. But now in our encore years, the latter might not even exist anymore. And that can be a struggle for our identity. You talk about how success isn't about the climb, but it's about recognizing and owning your value, the value that you bring to every role in your life, regardless of any kind of hierarchy. How can women who are shifting into their encore phase detach from their self worth, or detach their self worth from old titles and
right.
start valuing their unique wisdom and experience that they bring?
Oh, that's a good question, Patricia. I think it's number one important to distinguish between self-worth and then workplace value, or what I define as workplace value. When we look at self-worth, this is something that is internal and that's not going anywhere. Meaning you are always going to have value. You are always going to be worthy. You are always going to be adequate. You are always going to be enough. And I'm not even going to debate anybody on that because I know it's true.
No
So
debate.
that, yeah, no debate, right? The
Mhm.
other part of that is that workplace value. And workplace value even falls under two different areas. You have contribution, which is essentially the effort or the actions that we're putting forth. And then the value part is how that is translated in the workplace
Mm,
by your team, the department, or the mission. And so the goal then is not about looking at how your work makes you valuable, because we already said we're not, you are valuable. The goal then is to connect your actions in a way that are translated as valuable in the workplace. And here's a case in point. I had a previous client who they had a really high production rate, meaning they were getting a lot of things done, but they didn't feel like they were being valued in the workplace.
hmm
And so that's frustrating. Like no one wants to do more only to receive less acknowledgement, less praise. But, as we started having the conversation, what was realized was that the workplace wasn't focused on high production. The workplace was focused on relationships. The workplace was focused on connection, which the person could do, but they were so focused on this is the skill and abilities that I have. And so when we look at how do we keep, how do we see that workplace value that we're adding, it's about understanding what does the workplace value and
hmm
then translating that into a language or articulating it, whether it's through our actions or whether it's through our words, in a way that the workplace understands.
mm
Because otherwise we'll burn ourselves out trying to do more and more and more. But if it's not the more that is correlated with what the workplace sees as value, then we'll end up really exhausting ourselves. So I know that was a lot and I have more to say, but I know time is limited. So please let me
Yeah,
know.
that's a great, and I would love to take that conversation another time about
Yeah.
how that relates to women who are now stepping off the corporate ladder and
Yeah.
how that relates to their life and perhaps their work going forward, um, because they probably are in the habit of producing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's not just about their identity that they need to rediscover or reinvent. It's about how they are going to be perceived, or how they are going to be able to experience the value, the acknowledgement of value, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think that would be
Absolutely.
a great conversation for you and I just alone. Okay. So now, another actually controversial point is the how of comparison. Okay, so
Right.
finally, I want to touch on this one. It comes up all the time. It frustrates me, okay, because I see this comparison that women
Yeah.
do with one another. It robs them of their personal power, no matter how much they have accomplished. They're always seeing themselves as less than because they're comparing themselves to someone else.
Yeah.
So that's comparison. Many women look at other women launching successful encore careers after climbing the ladder, such as launching a business or traveling the world. And it's very easy, especially since we have social media, to be able to compare
Yeah.
our lives and our work with other people. And it's a trap, right? So you argue that there's nothing wrong with comparison itself.
Right.
Okay. It is how we compare that challenges us. What an interesting insight that I'd like you to share. Please unpack that
Absolutely.
for us.
There's a lot to unpack, right?
Mhm.
So I actually came to this conclusion or this new idea maybe about, we're in 2026 now. So, oh gosh, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, 5 years ago now. And I had just opened up the business that I have now, and I was doing a lot of research. I was, developing mentors, joining mastermind groups, and doing all the things that I was supposed to do in
Mhm.
order to excel in my business. And one of the things that I kept hearing was, you can't use certain things as a business lead. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's I was getting the advice from everywhere. And I was like, okay. But it was too late because I was already doing exactly what they told me not to do.
Mhm.
And I noticed that I started to actually get business from what they told me not to do. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, okay. And then in the midst of me doing what they told me not to do and me seeing a different outcome, I also noticed as I started having conversations with people that people who I thought to be further along they had challenges and obstacles as well as I started having one-on-one conversations with them. And then, Patricia, at once, everything just hit me. I am comparing. I am looking at what someone else is doing versus what I'm doing, and I'm looking at our outcomes. I compared myself initially to people, but when I got to know them, I got a chance to understand and go beyond the initial layer of what I saw. And that is what brought me to comparison really isn't the villain here. It is how we do it. And especially with the way social media is, we use comparison as a surface layer. We see someone doing really well. I use air quotes for that, really well, because what is really well, right? And
Mm-hmm.
think, "Oh gosh, I'm not as far along as them." But how long have they been at it? What steps have they taken? What challenges and obstacles? What support did they have? Now, those are all of the questions that pop up in my mind because I don't want to look at your outcome. I need to know more about it to understand what do I like about what you're doing? What do I dislike about what you're doing? Is there something I can take from what you're doing and not imitate but emulate in my own way, create
Yeah.
my own iteration of that. And I
Yeah.
think that if we go through, I have a process, I call it pad A. And if we go through this process, one of them being analyzing, of looking at what people are doing, not from a mind of I want to do what they're doing, but from an understanding of how does what they're doing, if anything, how can that be beneficial to me? And I think that that's really important because it can be a learning tool, and
Yeah.
reflection is the key to that.
Yeah, I like that. And that's also when you were saying about how can I use that for myself, but how can I put my own spin on it that's right for
Right.
me, right?
Exactly.
So that's good. Yeah. So it's great to have mentors and see what they're doing. May not work for us.
Exactly.
There's things that may not work for us, and but if we use that as not so much as a comparison, but as a model and then change the model for ourselves. I really like that. That shift in perspective is crucial. So instead of shrinking back, we can use the observations to fuel
Yes.
our own transformation, right?
That's exactly what it is, and there's a couple psychologists, I know we don't have the time to go into it today, but you think about, so Fessinger did the social comparison, but then you have Zoll and Kolb that kind of talk about this learning model, and that was essentially where I got pad A from was, you know, it's natural, it's organic for us to compare, but
Mm.
how can we use it in a way that is going to be beneficial, and then where it becomes second nature for us to use it effectively versus using it as an
Yeah.
upward comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to finish on this one point, and that is that, like for me, envy is at the worst of the comparison, and it's so destructive to our own soul and to other women. It's very disrespectful to other women, and
Yeah.
it erodes our mutual relationships. Envy and comparison is so disrespectful to our life. But I like your spin on it, on how we can use it to observe and fuel our own transformations.
Yes.
Great. So, Lapora, this has been such an empowering conversation, a good place to begin a new year, I would say. So, I just want to let the audience know what my takeaways are and suggest that maybe they use that as a model, but also come up with their own takeaways. Don't compare with me. So we learned that ambition and contentment are not enemies. They're partners in a fulfilled life. So we can have both contentment and ambition and still be part of a whole human being. So the second one is that we discussed the vital importance of owning your value, your independent of the corporate title or the professional title you might have or the status you might have. And finally, how to transform comparison from a stumbling block, something that is negative, into inspiration and perhaps a stepping stone to your own greatness and fulfillment. Lapora, I ask all my podcast guests about a moment when they realized that they wanted to remaster their life and work. I'd love for you to share the story. Could you do that?
Yeah, excuse me. Sounds like a hesitation, but it's really just my throat. Um, so I honestly, I feel like it's happened a couple times for me, and I think a large part of that is just because of my husband's career. We've moved around a lot. But I'll say the last time that it's happened, I had to resign from my current job at the time, and I was trying to get a new position in our new location, but that just it wasn't happening. And it was at that point when I was like, you know what? I am tired of moving and needing to resign and needing to essentially start back over.
Mm.
I want something that I build. I want something for myself. And I essentially I want to be able to create a legacy not only for my family, but in a way that is also able to help others to see the value that they carry. And that was around that 4 to 5 years ago when I mentioned about that comparison. So it just it was a really, I don't want to say life altering, but it was transformational moment for me to be like, I'm tired of being dependent on someone else or another company or organization. What can I do that's going to propel me forward continuously? So,
See
yeah.
what it sparked for you, right? That's
Yeah.
amazing. So, how can listeners connect with you?
Yes. So if you're using social media, I am pretty active on LinkedIn. You can find me there, LaPora Lindsay. I am also on Instagram and Facebook. I'm LaPora Lindsay everywhere. And if they want to send me an email, you can. It's hello at laporalindsay.com. And that's LaPora, LAP, as in Paul, ORALINDSEY. And I'm happy to hold a conversation.
Okay. And that will all be in the show notes. I'll share that in the show notes. But thank you very much for spelling it out. That's
Yes,
great. For our subscribers to the Executive Encore Network newsletter and members of the Executive Encore Network for Women, you'll be able to watch Lapora's feature or read her feature and a special offer that she has provided for subscribers and members. Lapora said anyone can contact her. You can contact her on social media, but Lapora is putting together something special for the membership.
that's
So
right.
that will be in the newsletter, which is this Sunday, January 18th, 2026. Okay. So if you are not a subscriber or a member yet, you will be able to do that by going onto my website to subscribe and subscribe to the Executive Encore podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd be so grateful if you could leave a review as it helps other women. Think about this. It helps the channel, yes, but it helps other women to find this community that is so valuable for them. For more resources or to join the conversation, visit my website, and I'll spell that one out as well, even though it's in the ticker. It's patriciamuir.com, and you can reach me on LinkedIn as well. Follow me on YouTube and LinkedIn. I would love to see your comments. Lapora will be very happy to respond to any comments on this particular episode, and I will be happy to respond to all comments and all little hearts, everything like that on any video. You could still contact me by email as well, especially about joining the Executive Encore Network for Women. This is a membership and a community of women who are proving every day that our best chapters are still being written. And it's supported by people, by speakers, by authors like LaPora. So please subscribe to the newsletter. Actually, you can see the code up if you are watching this on YouTube. You can see the Q code up on the left-hand corner where you can link to show notes and also to the subscription. Again, Lapore is going to be featured in the weekly blog this week and published in the newsletter on Sunday, January 18th. Remember, this is where your Executive Encore begins. This is where you start to live and have that spark like Lapora had to see what's going on, but make it her own and lead differently with self trust. complemented by healthy boundaries and mindsets, everything that women of all ages benefit from. Until next time, take care of yourself, do what's best for you, and don't jeopardize what you've built for yourself. Thank you.